Okay. And I will be I'll come back and like check actually if Veronica, if you could like let me know if there's any questions because when I go full screen I won't be able to see the chat anymore. So yeah, so let me know. I'll be like, is there any questions? And then you can just let me know if there's any questions um or anything. Uh yeah. All right, let's get started. All right. Uh, okay, just want to make sure. Can everybody see the slide?
Mhm.
You're good? Awesome. Okay, so your title goes here because we're trying to get you to create your own series. So this is your thing. Your title goes here. An introduction to pitching an original series or film. Uh, okay. So overview. So basically, what we're going to go over a couple of tips, and then we're going to watch a video by the odds one out for pitching a show, which is going to be really fun. And his experience with that pitching to Netflix and actually successfully get a show. And then I'm going to go over and talk about my experience. And I will uh, show you the pitch project that I got to do during my industry internship last summer and go over some of the feedback that I was given for that pitch. Uh, so, some basic tips outline the story. It's okay if you don't have all the details yet. That does not need to be uh, outlined until later. And even if you don't have all the answers yet and you don't know every single detail, that is okay. You can worry about that after you have it pitched. But you do want to know like where you're going to start, where you're going to end. If it's a film, if it's a series, just outline season one and possibly as to where it could be going. If you don't know where the series is going to specifically end just yet, again, that is completely okay. Um, Figure out the most important parts of the story, and those are the parts you're going to focus on the most. So, um, you don't need to put in like the fine little in between details. Outline the characters and add a brief synopsis of the plot. So you want to kind of go over the characters. And again, I will show you more in the example pitch I'll show you later. This will make a little bit more sense, hopefully. But you're going to outline the characters. Don't necessarily go into detail for every character. Just kind of keep like maybe the main few characters, um, and give like the give the main characters more detail than like the minor characters. And then you might just be like, these are some of the minor characters, and just you don't even need to include those necessarily. Um, and a brief synopsis of the plot, it can be usually I would dedicate like one slide to that, to the plot. And so that's probably, about a page or so, a couple paragraphs. Try to keep it as brief as possible. And number four, include basic info such as expected rating, genre, length, include how many seasons if it is a series. So expect it to be 3 seasons or 4 seasons at 10 episodes a season or etc. Um, and also include why the show should be made, and is this right for the company? So why should the show be made right now? Why should it be made by the company? Why is it the right thing to make at this moment in time? Why should they make it? Why should they invest their time, their money? Again, because um, you're not only trying to sell your story, but that's the other thing too is like be kind. You aren't trying to just sell your story, but you're also selling yourself, your personality. You want to make a good first impression because you want these people to work with you. You want them to pick up your series, and so you want you are trying to convince them why they should give you their resources, their dedication, resources and money and stuff like that. Because they don't obviously want to waste resources and money. They want to be sure that whatever they're putting in, they're going to get something out of it in return. That it's going to be worth their time and effort. Um, and number five, be ready to answer any question that might be thrown your way because they might ask you questions that you didn't even think of yet. You have to be able to think on your feet and be like, yeah, I know this thing that wasn't necessarily included in the pitch, but I already, even if you don't have it specifically outlined yet, Like when I had to do my pitch, there were questions that totally caught me off guard, and I was like, "Oh, well, this it could do this, 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 and this," and I just came up with an answer on the spot, and that's something that is kind of hard to do, but it is something that I think is kind of vital to uh, being pitch ready. And if you aren't ready to answer those questions, then you aren't ready to pitch. Um, and only the other thing too is I've been told a lot is only pitch when you are ready to pitch. If you don't feel ready, if you don't feel like everything is there, if you don't feel like it's fine tuned and just like you want it to be the best that it can be, and you want to be prepared as well. And if you don't feel prepared enough, then uh, don't pitch it. Don't reach out to any. Don't say that your series is ready to be pitched when it's not. Essentially, because you really have to be ready and prepared and know your series, know your characters, be ready to answer questions, that sort of thing. Um, okay, so we're going to move on to this video, and then after that, I'm going to show you a little example of what I have done. Um, yeah, here we go.
You might be thinking that me giving you advice on pitching a
Can you hear that? I just want to make sure that I shared sound. Okay, cool.
show is insincere or not applicable because of that. But listen, there was still a whole lot of work that went into my pitch for a TV show, and even with all my subscribers, I still got turned down way more times than I got picked up. If Netflix is just green-lighting everyone with a big sub count, then why doesn't I Did a Thing have a show, huh? Why doesn't Mr. Beast have a Netflix show? Oh, actually, he's doing just fine. By the way, if you are someone with a lot of subscribers, don't just walk into a studio and say, "Hey, I have a lot of subs, give me a show," okay? Walk in and say, "Hey, I have a lot of subs and free merchandise for you," okay? Diversification is key. Networks like Netflix, Cartoon Network, and Nickelodeon, they're in the biz of making content for their platform and in turn getting you, the viewer, to watch said content on said platform, thus generating a perpetual money-making cycle that everyone, including you, benefits from. Now, the executives in charge don't have all the time to come up with every single show they're going to make, so they turn to the general public, open their doors, and will listen to anyone pitch them their idea for a television series. But even if you have an Emmy-winning idea, if you're not able to properly sell your idea and win over the hearts of the network executives, it's not going to get picked up and developed. Then your only option is to independently fund and develop your idea yourself. But what kind of a loser would do that? And thus the art of pitching a show is born. You could honestly teach a whole class about this. Now, obviously, you can't just walk into a studio empty-handed. All right, big idea. What if we do a show where there's a talking alligator, right? And he's like, "Yo, what? I'm a crocodile." You gotta come prepared, but also not be over-prepared. I was actually surprised to learn this, but going into the pitch room with finished scripts, turnarounds of your characters, and plushies will actually hurt your chances of getting picked up. The reason for this is because executives will sometimes like to change parts of your show, and if you already have all the characters and story mapped out, they'll not want to pick you up because they feel like they can't change anything. You're not even supposed to write any scripts until after you get the green light because the executives have to approve all the scripts you make and the writers that you want to hire. So if you ever pitch a show, just be open for changes, which I can attest is a very different experience to what it's like on YouTube. What you do want to bring to the pitch is this super important document called a show Bible, and then you need to convert to that show's religion. The show Bible is a document that contains everything your audience needs to know about your show. In the beginning of a show Bible, there should be a 1 to 2 sentence description that covers the main synopsis of your show. It's kind of like an elevator pitch, but here in the biz, we call it a log line. I'll give you mine as an example. When James's parents moved them to a tiny desert town where eccentric scientific minds have been brought together to do unfretted experiments, James finds himself surrounded by the children of these scientists and the offspring of their experiments. The result? Unlike in his last town, James is no longer the oddest kid around. I don't know if the show's been out by the time this video comes out, but we kind of lost the new in town theme. Like I said, the executives want to make changes. After the logline, you write a page-long backstory where you go more in depth with your idea. Answer questions like, who are the characters? What are their goals? Where do they live? Just general stuff, because after the backstory page, you're going to write all about your characters. This is the part of the Bible where you can just go balls to the wall with details and description. Who, how, and why are your characters? What are their wants, needs, fears, flaws, likes, dislikes, and general personality traits? These are important traits to think about even if a specific detail isn't going to be reflected in the show. Like in my Bible for the crocodile, Max, some of the things we said he liked were the rain, raw chicken, and laying on warm rocks in the sun. Now, I don't think he got to enjoy a single one of those things in the show, but these are the types of questions you have to answer to get the clearest idea of who your characters are. You should also include drawings of your characters. This can help show their personality and body language, but just keep them to doodles, because again, they're subjected to change. Next, there needs to be drawings and descriptions of specific locations that the characters spend a lot of time in. This will help show the overall world and tone of the show. And lastly, I know it's long, that's why it's called a show Bible and not a show pamphlet. You need to write out page-long episode ideas, not scripts. This will show the executives what a typical episode would look like and the direction and tone you want to go with the show. Honestly, there's so much that goes into a show Bible. I'm really only scratching the surface. If you are genuinely interested in pitching a show, or even a little interested in cartoons, then I would highly recommend looking at other show Bibles online for inspiration and how they should be formatted. It's pretty fun looking through older show Bibles and seeing the earliest versions of your favorite cartoons. This is what Mermaid Man and Barnacle Bill were going to look like. I mean, look, isn't that cool? Unfortunately, you can't just hand an executive your show Bible and silently wait for them to finish reading it. You also have to energetically and flawlessly pitch your show. Executives listen to like 9 pitches a day, so if you're not selling your show with 110% enthusiasm, they're gonna pass right over you. So you have to practice your pitch like your paycheck depends on it. Me and the showrunner I worked with, Ethan Banville, practiced our pitch so many times. We practiced in front of a mirror, to our family members. We filmed ourselves practicing and then watched the footage, gave each other notes, and then burned the evidence. We memorized our whole Bible, but despite everything, the first time we pitched, I was still nervous. I had no idea what pitching a show would be like. We brought in our stapled Bible that we typed out on Microsoft Word, and I thought, this isn't enough. This Bible doesn't even have a spine. I still thought we needed to bring in finished scripts and character designs to show the executives how much thought we put into the show. But Ethan reassured me, no, the executives don't want to be overwhelmed with content. But when we got to the lobby, I saw the group ahead of us pitching their show, and they had cardboard cutouts of their characters, and they were handing the executives custom plushies, and I turned to Ethan, we are so underprepared. When we got inside, we pitched the show just like we practiced 1,000 times, and then the executive told me that no studio would ever want to work with a YouTuber. Yeah, sometimes they don't even wait to tell you in an email that they're going to pass. Sometimes they just get it over with right then and there. So, not the best confidence boost for your first pitch. But we kept on pitching, and we kept hearing a lot of no's. And if you ever pitch, get ready to hear that response. Everyone in Hollywood has a story of being turned down by everyone and then finding the right home for their idea. And sometimes really talented people work for years on an idea and it goes nowhere. So the fact that I was even able to make something and it didn't get canceled, I'm incredibly grateful for. But getting a show greenlit is not the only way to get it made. You can always put in the work and develop something yourself. No, you won't have a network backing you with tons of money, but if you truly believe in your idea, you should at least put something out for the world to see and over time build your own audience and then, who knows, maybe even sell it to a network. But not the one who said they never work with a YouTuber. They're horrible. Okay, that's all the time I got. I gotta get back to watching Oddballs streaming October 7th on my Netflix.
Okay, yeah. So I think he really explained it a lot better than I probably could have. just because he got something made, I have not, and so the only experience I ever had is just pitching. I the pitch that I had was just like a practice pitch, essentially, which represented a a real life pitch, like what it would actually be like. Um, but he actually got something made, and that was really cool to see his take on it. Um, and yeah, so I'm gonna move on. Um, just before we move on, do we have any like questions about like the video or anything like that, or do you want to like wait until after to do more questions? I just want to, because I can't see the chat, so I don't know if there's any. Um, all right, cool. Mhm. Yeah, a little bit actually. I think the practicing your pitch in a mirror for like a full day or a week, or that's definitely something that I've done. I feel like practice 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 makes perfect. There's this old saying, it was how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Through practice practice practice. And it's something that I think about all the time, is like when you have to like pitch something, or you have to get in front of people and like actually like explain an idea. um, Practice it. I know people who many I actually know a few people, and everybody is like, yeah, I practiced for like a full 24 hours before, like a full, like the day before, like that's all I did was just practice in the mirror. And even with that, you would still get nervous. It's because again, you don't know what they're going to be asking of you, which is a little bit scary. I think I remember she was like, "Be prepared to answer questions." Or my internship supervisor, she was like, "Be prepared to answer questions that you might not have thought of, like just because we're just going to ask you questions about your pitch. So be prepared for that." And I think not knowing what they were going to ask and worried I wasn't going to be prepared enough, really, really, really scared me. Um, but I think like James said, it's you don't want to be over prepared. You don't want to be under prepared, but you don't want to be over prepared. And that's something that I learned. I'm going to show you my pitch in a second here. And one of the pieces of feedback I got was actually, um, it's too much. There's too much information. Make it a little bit more vague, because we want to know we want to be able to ask questions. We want to be able to want to know more. If we know everything, we're not gonna be able to keep thinking about it. It's gonna feel done. It's gonna be feel complete. But if you only include a little bit, like almost like a teaser almost, um, we're just going to want to know more. We're going to want to know, like, well, okay, well, if you said this and this, well, what if this happens? Like, what is your plan for this? And like wanting to know more about the characters. And so I thought that was really interesting. That I thought I didn't have enough, and she was like, "No, you have too much." And so that's something I'm going to show you in a second, because I have like 4 or 5 slides for characters, and I only needed, like, 1 or 2. So, like, that's just an example of, like, I learned firsthand that you don't wanna be over prepared. I was worried I was gonna be underprepared, but I was actually over prepared, so, um So yeah, I think, again, I haven't pitched to any like major studios. I haven't pitched to Netflix. I haven't pitched, to anything like that. I know people who have pitched to studios like that. I know people who have gone through um through pitch. There's actually somebody I do know. I can't say much because I don't. A lot of it I think is NDA, but they did. I know someone who just did a pitch, and I can't say much, but I do know what the experience was like. They told me like what happened when that's they practiced for like a full day and then they showed up and uh yeah, it's just like anything can happen. Just because like there are some people who show up and it's like, yeah, we want to make your thing versus like right away. Like and they like there are some things that my they practice that this person that I cannot say because NDA. But they practice it and they didn't even have to say it. Like it was so yeah, you might practice it and it might not end up being used. You might practice it and they might want more than that. So I think you really have to be prepared. Again, don't be over prepared. Something I learned. Um, and yeah, just trying to you're trying to. I hope that answered your question. I feel like what you really want to do is you want to be able to. It's like a teaser it's like a teaser for a movie. It's like you don't get to see a whole bunch, but you get to see a little bit, and it makes you want to know more. That's kind of what the pitch is, essentially. Um, I don't. Did I answer your question? I feel like I kind of.
Feel like you did. You mentioned that
Okay.
like you need like keep it brief, but also like be on your
Mhm.
toes. Like your
Yes.
presentation should create points of intrigue so that people can ask questions and like like don't divulge every detail.
Yes. And again, like I like James, I thought I was severely underprepared, but I was actually overprepared. So I did resonate with that a lot. It's like that's what I did. So yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, Catherine says thank
Of
you.
course, yeah. So again, for those of you who don't know me yet, I am the activities coordinator for the Animation Club. My name is Sarah. I'm a media production management and technology major and a digital arts and sciences minor at UF. And last summer, I was a development intern at Raimi Productions, which is Sam Raimi's production company. During this internship, I actually had the opportunity to complete a practice pitch project with other interns. Um, so basically, what it was essentially, this project is uh, during the internship, the majority of what I had to do was something called coverage. And we got to see everything from pitch decks to pilot episode scripts to feature scripts. I even got to read a novel and do write coverage for adaptation and look at different things for adaptation. Um, and basically, I had to determine like, is this something that we should pass on? Is it something that we should consider for development? Or is it something that I would recommend for development? Um, and so during this, I really got a sense of like what is, what studios are looking for, what is good, what is something that maybe can be improved, oh, this is a pass, but why is it a pass? And so I think that really helped me understand what in my story that I want to look for, but also what studios are looking for. And I think that really helped me with the pitch project. And the pitch project, about halfway through the internship, we were given in more information about it. And essentially, what we had to do is we had to um, write our own pitch project and a pitch original idea. And then during our last week of the internship, it was through a Zoom because this was all remote. And it was me. There were three other interns and our supervisor, and we each had to pitch our idea. And then when we were done, it was opened up to questions so people can ask. You know, uh, like one of the questions that was asked is like, where do you see, future episodes to go? Like, what does future episodes could look like? Different things like that. And I had to be like on my feet and ready to answer any questions that they, you know, they shot out at me, that they threw at me. Um, so that was my experience. I'm going to show you just a little backstory about what this actually is. So this is my pitch. So I started with just like this title slide, um, and I called it's called interstice, which is an intervening space, especially a very small one. Is what it's defined as. So then I had this brief little story, like tagline. Um, this is this is a decent sized tagline, I feel like. It could probably be a little bit shorter, um, but I think this is a pretty decent this is a good slide for your story overview. Um, I went into the world, again, very brief, easy, some mood board art that I found on Pinterest, just to like, I didn't have any uh art or any time. I was gonna sketch some characters and I just didn't have time because of the other intern assignments I had. So I just used mood board stuff. Just to like give it a little bit of like, this is what it kind of is. But it's open for interpretation, kind of like James said. You don't want to be like, this is a finalized character turnaround, because obviously uh, they want to be able to change it and they want to be able to have like that power. Um, and then a little bit of background on what the interstice power is, which is the ability to enter a dimension between time that many aren't aware of. And basically, when you enter uh, interstice, you enter the shattered dimension and you can access it's another world. And when you walk the thin line between dimensions, uh, your body is kind of transparent and translucent and hollow. So your body's like in this alternate mind is still in our world. So it's kind of like this really cool, like in between power ability. So I kind of explained that a little bit. I went into the split, which is what happens when you overuse the ability. Um, I talked about the Deimos project, which is like the big bad of the series. What they're fighting against, essentially. Um, the Defiance, which is like the hero group. Some mood board concept art. Then I have the Defiance, a little bit of character, just overview of the characters, um, and then some connections between the characters that honestly, I did not need to include this. I did not. This isn't something, because if I just said there are connections between them, they might be like, oh, well, what are the connections? And they might still want to ask questions. They might even ask the questions. So you have to like, be ready to answer those. But this is very like, this is exactly what happens. And this is so like it's information that is like fine details, the in between. This did not need to be in there. That this can be a later thing. Again, because they would want, if they want to be able to change stuff, you want it to be very broad, very open for interpretation, maybe open for change. This is just too specific, too narrow. So this could have been taken out, or uh, like condensed by a lot to one sentence, just saying like they have connections with each other. Um, and then the family heads, which again, I didn't probably need all of this information. Same thing with the Defiance. I probably could have gone over like the two main characters and then had one page for all the other characters, essentially. Um, I could have condensed it by a lot. Also, because we had a 10-minute max time, and I actually went over 10 minutes just slightly, which is another thing. They might actually like, if you're in a pitch, um, there's a good chance like if they give you a time limit, like, oh, you have 5 minutes, you have 10 minutes, they will cut you off at 10 minutes whether you finish or not. So that's something to consider as well. I remember like that's part of the thing, like, when I was just practice this pitch. how can I get it under 10 minutes? And I was rushing through it, and I was going like really fast. And I think, if I had less stuff, I could have taken a little bit more time, let it's like all the ideas and everything sink in a little bit. And I still would have had plenty of time to get through everything. But because I put way too much information, um, yeah, so yeah, this is more reminiscent of a story Bible than a pitch deck, which a story Bible is more in detail. Um, like again, the story Bible is pretty long. I've been told by some people want a story Bible when you pitch, some people don't. I've had a lot of people tell me you don't need a story Bible yet. That comes later. Because what's been explained to me a little bit is I also think it depends to what you're pitching and who you're pitching to, whether it's a film, whether it's a series, live action, animation, video game, whatever it might be a slightly different. But what's been explained to me is that a story Bible is more a reference for when you're so you can go like, okay, this is like an outline of episode one. This is an outline of episode two. Um, you might want to like briefly mention this is what episode one might look like, and then say like future episodes could look like this, and this, and have just a few bullet points. It's like one episode. This could be another episode. Uh, I've this during this pitch project specifically, she said we aren't looking for like full descriptions. Just like give like as briefly as you can a little description of what future episodes might look like, which is actually something I didn't include because I just went to the characters background, which again, all this, the world, the interstice, the split, Dymoth Project, the Defiance, that all could have been one page. That all could have been the backstory on one page. It didn't need to be 4, 5 different pages. Same thing with the characters. I have like 5 character slides. I don't need 5 character slides. I just needed like maybe 1 or 2, maybe 3, depending. Um, and I didn't need as much detail on each slide. Uh, so again, this is just kind of to tease your story and to try to get them to be like, I want to know more. Um, so one of the questions they did ask was, what are future episodes like? What could they look like? What do you have? Like what if like season one? Like what if season one starts with this and ends with this? Like what could episodes look like? Like what could episode one be like? What was episode two? And I kind of just went into it like episode one could be them discovering Milo discovering he has the interstitiality. Episode two is like he meets the Defiance. Episode three, the Defiance bring him on a mission and promise that they can train his abilities and help him learn about his abilities. Um, and he has to help them in return or something like that. Episode three could be like a episode and like him learning how to use. So like that's kind of like what you have to do and answer. You don't necessarily have to have. I know like in the um, video, James was talking about having the series Bible ready and having descriptions of multiple episodes, like one page descriptions. Um, I've I've heard 50-50 on that. Some people want that. I thought that's what people wanted, and then I did this pitch project and they were like, "No, we just need like a brief description." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I've been actually told quite a few different things. And it's honestly, I think again, it is just depending on who you're pitching to, and um, I think it's honestly probably safest to just have a brief description, and if they want to know more, then you can tell them more and go into more detail. Because it's better to be on your slides. I think it's better to have just a generalization, and then if they want to know more, you can you know, maybe have it with you. Don't hand it to them right away. Like if they want to know more, you can be like, "Oh, I have a Bible, a series Bible, if you want to look at it." Um, but it's not necessarily needed at the very, very beginning. Uh, Again, I think because what they ask questions, be ready to answer questions. They might ask you more. Um, but if you include too much, they might be kind of like, "Oh, I don't know." So I hope that that kind of explains a little bit. I don't know if anybody has any questions about this pitch process in particular, or any questions about. I'll open it for up to Q&A.
So we do have a few questions. Um, the first one being, if I wanted a specific studio to produce my show, would you suggest pitching to other studios too first to practice your pitch, or can I just keep returning to the same studio with revised pitches?
Honestly, that is a really good question. Um, if you pitch to a studio with no intention of working with that studio, I wouldn't do that. Just because that's gonna like set a precedent for you as a person. Like, oh, we want to make your thing. Sorry, I don't want to work, or like and then another studio is like, oh, we want to make your series. And then you also say like, I don't want to, work with the studio. Want to work with a different studio. It's because it's not just for practice for them. You would be wasting their time, money, resources. They could be pitching spending their time watching a pitch for somebody who actually wants them to help uh, make their series or film or whatever it might be. Um, and so I think and words does spread fast, so that actually could hurt your chances at the studio that you want to pitch at. They might not even uh, want like if they see that you want to pitch, they might just be like no because they know you're gonna be like they don't know if you're going to reject them or not, essentially. So I think, only pitch to studios that you genuinely want to pitch to. You don't have to accept like if you have an opportunity to pitch, you have to accept any offers. Don't feel obligated to pitch any offers, but I mean, don't feel obligated to take an offer. You can always be like, I just don't want to, or I don't feel comfortable doing it, or if it feels off, or it feels sketchy, or if it feels, like they aren't going to treat your show right, um, then you don't have to agree to anything. Don't sign anything. And but if you already know you're going into the studio to pitch and you're using it as practice, because it's not practice to those people that are going to be hearing your pitch, this is like their job, and they are looking for something to actually to make. Um, so yeah, I would if you don't have any intention of working, I would say don't pitch to those studios. If you want practice, um, I would say I feel like there might be online classes that you can take and maybe possible groups and stuff like that that you can probably find maybe on Discord or something that you can pitch to your friends, pitch to other writers, try to get feedback. Um, I would like to maybe do another meeting. I'm thinking either over the summer or later this in the semester to go over the pitches that you guys create after this meeting. Any pitches that you currently have, or any pitches that you create at the end of the meeting, if you want to like go and create something, uh, just to go over it and have that practice. Um, and then we can give each other feedback and stuff if you would like. So you can always have that resource. Like that is a great suggestion. Um, but yeah, don't pitch to studios for practice. Um, es- unless it's like the thing I did over the summer with the internship, and it's for an intern thing, and it is for practice, and they say specifically it's for practice. That's the only time that I would say it's okay to use a pitch at a studio. Because I wasn't even pitching to industry, like the people who would hear the pitches, like Sam Raimi and um like the executives and stuff like that. I wasn't pitching to those people. It was just the internship supervisor. Um and so it wasn't like it was very clearly just practice. It did simulate a an actual experience of pitching, but it was very clearly just practice. And but yeah, I would say that's the only time it's probably comfortable to pitch for practice at a studio. I hope that I feel like I kind of went back and forth a little bit there, but I hope that answered your question. Um,
I believe so.
yeah.
Next question. Would this pitching process also apply to video games?
Honestly, I don't know much about pitching video games. I more know about series and film.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I like to imagine it would be similar, but there are probably certain elements that you might want to include uh, that maybe are slightly different, uh, like uh, like instead of episodes, you would do levels. Like this is an example of what a level might be like, or different like maybe user interface. And I'm not really well versed with like video game stuff, so I think it would probably be something more along that, like some video game stuff that you might want to include into the pitch as well. Um, but so I think generally speaking, uh, and you say like, would this also apply to video games? What specifically?
I don't
And
know what kind of like what type of game they're asking about specifically, but what I will say is that generally, to my knowledge, I don't know that people or game companies will look for pitches from the general public. Mostly because,
yeah,
like, even though the production life of video games is is pretty long in the same way it is for series and like TV series, television, and film, feature film stuff, um, they have to sort of keep in mind, like, they have to keep in mind the franchises that they currently have that could span for forever, like the gazillion Sonic, Legend of Zelda, Mario games. Like, I don't really think they're looking. Maybe those aren't good examples because they're really big, but I don't know that there's like a very similar pitching process for video games specifically. If you want to know more about that, you could shoot a cold email to one of the gaming professors at Digital Worlds. Um,
you could also ask. I don't know if you're in Develop. I'm sure they probably have more information on game development and like in original game pitches and stuff like that. Um, but yeah,
sure.
I kind of agree with that. I think, like Veronica said, I think it's kind of not as common to pitch video games as it is. Like there is, it might be more common with like indie video game companies and stuff like that, rather than I don't think Nintendo is gonna like just take pitches for like new game ideas unless you like work at Nintendo.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. So I mean, I'm sure it's a thing. I'm sure, I mean, every video game is a project and every project has to have a pitch and the executives have to approve it. But like it's more of I think of more like an internal thing. And I don't know exactly how that every project has to be pitched and approved by executives before it's greenlit. But so I'm assuming that like video games obviously do have pitches, but like I just don't know how it works necessarily. Um, yeah.
Cool. Two questions that are kind of related to one another. Are story
Mhm.
Bibles like graphic novels? And can my webtoon or graphic novel count as a story Bible?
Um,
I,
yeah. Oh, go ahead.
sorry, I don't, I, I won't want to say like they're like graphic novels. Like a pretty big chunk of the story Bibles I've seen are very much what Sarah was saying, where you have like brief outlines of the shape of a season, all these like
Mhm.
potential plot points that you could like build on, and then character outlines and some background context for like the world that they're in, or at least in terms of like pitch decks. Story Bibles will also have like more writing stuff, but like I don't think they like the visual aspects of story Bibles necessarily tie to um, story stuff. From what I've seen, it's like something that people will um, reference throughout like the production pipeline,
Mhm.
like as a style guide to like make sure that I'm really like nailing this like XYZ about a character or whatever. Um, I don't think they're like a graphic novel in the sense that you're like drawing out how episodes would go. Um,
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, no, go ahead. I'm done.
Yeah, no, that's right. Story Bibles are not graphic novels, and your graphic novel would not count as a story Bible. You would need to do something completely separate. Because again, you don't if you are have a story Bible, you want it to be open for interpretation. You don't want, like James said, you don't want full character turnarounds. You don't want finished, like finalized work. You want it. You maybe a quick sketch here and there, but you want you don't want to be because I feel like if you have a full webtoon or a full graphic novel, that would count as over preparing. That's going to be like showing up with cardboard cutouts and plushies and things like that, and you don't want that. Um, it could help for them to see like hey, like I do have if you wanted to like turn your into a series or something like that, like I do have this graphic novel as a reference. That is a great thing to have, but it is not the same as a story Bible. Story Bible is again more wordy, it's more written. You might be able to include like some sketches here and there, but don't include any finalized designs, any character turnarounds, full scripts or anything like that. It's just going to be outlines mostly, just to give them a little bit of an overview of what it is you're trying to pitch and what it is you're trying to make. Um, so I hope that that kind of again, it is a great reference, but, I think it can probably be seen as maybe, like, over preparing, and it's definitely not a story. A story Bible is more, uh, up for interpretation, maybe a little bit more like a style guide, kinda like James said, like, there are some things that you might put in there, like, this character liked, eating chicken and sleeping on warm rocks and stuff like that. Like, that might not necessarily be put into the series, but it's good to, like, look back and be like, "Okay, so this is, like, the overview of the character. This is the vibe of the character." And, that's kind of what it's used for, is to look back. Like I said, that's what was told to me, the difference between a story Bible and a pitch deck. A pitch deck is, like, a brief teaser for the film to try to get executives more interested in your story and want to know more about it. Whereas a story Bible is more of a style guide or like a reference to have throughout filming and stuff like that. I know a lot of times you might create a story Bible after it's greenlit, or you might pitch it and they might be like, I want to see a story Bible before I make a decision. And then you can like either give them a story Bible or go create one. And yeah, but I wouldn't have like Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I don't think I guess like the main point of distinction is that your pitch deck is going to be an idea. Like a really they want to see your idea and they want to see that it's well thought out, but they don't want you to include so much detail that like because like in the writer's room for example, like so much can go down in a writer's room and like you want to be
Mhm.
able to um like the executives will want to leave the work to the different professionals across the pipeline. So like let the storyboard people, work out the kinks of your ideas or like let the writers um play with the plot a little bit here and see what they can do with your characters. It's like letting um all of the different artists in the pipeline to like allow them the space to build upon your idea. So yeah. Okay, next question.
Especially also too, because I just want to say real quick, trust directors, trust art directors, trust those producers, especially if they've been doing this for a very, very long time, longer than you have. They've seen things, they've experienced it, they've done multiple productions, they know what they're doing. Like for I know like I'm also like an actor and stuff like that. What I do is I trust a director. I might be like, "Oh, that wasn't great. I should probably do it again." And they'll be like, "No, no, no, that was great. Let's move on." They know what they're doing. They're like, if that was great, if it wasn't great, they would have said it and they would have said, "Let's do it again." You might be a little bit more hard on like your work and yourself more than like other people. Other people might see something and go, "That's amazing," even if you don't necessarily think so. So this goes for any job in the industry or any level, whether you're an artist, whether you're an animator, whether you're a writer, whether it's an original series. Um, trust the exact, yeah, or trust the exact, not trust the executives, but like trust the producers, trust the directors, trust the people who have been doing this for a lot longer than you have. Trust people who like this is what they do, this is what they're good at, this is they're the best of the best. And yeah, especially like if you're pitching a series as an artist and you're more of an artist than a writer, trust the writers because they are doing what they do best. Same thing if you're a writer and you're not necessarily an artist, but you trust the artists, trust the character designers, trust the concept artists and the storyboard artists because they know what they're doing. Um, so yeah, that's just another thing to think about as well. Um,
Cool.
yeah.
Another question. With feature
Mhm.
films, would a pitch only contain the beginning, middle, end, and character arc or descriptions?
That is a great question. So yes, I would say again, you don't have to go into detail. A series, I think, would mostly be um, an overview of like season one. You don't have to do all of the seasons. You don't even have to know where it's going to end. With a film, I feel like you generally know, want to know where it's going to start, where it's going to end, and kind of have like this outline planned. Again, I'm a little bit more familiar with series pitches, but it's not that much difference, honestly. I just say with a film, obviously, um, it's easier, I think, to condense it into like a page or so and have like the beginning, middle, and end figured out. So you kind of want to there are um like like flow charts and outlines that you can uh like have like like act 1, act 2, act 3. You might wanna just briefly explain what happens in each of those acts. And it depends on, like, what outline you're using. I think that's another thing you really want to, like, know how to do before, because even if you don't include it in your pitch, they might ask you, "Is it 3 acts? Is it 5 acts?" There's, like, different, like, structures that you can use um, in your film. And rather than like seasons and episodes, what happens in each episodes, you're probably what I would do is talk about what happens in each arc, um, and or sorry, arc in each act. So in Act One, we introduce the character, and then this happens, and it introduces us to the big bad. Like to the problem. In the second act, this problem happens, and the character learns to use their powers or something like that, and then at the end of Act Two, you have the climax. This is like, okay, so now we know what's going on. We have like our our battle. We have the thing that we're looking for. Uh, we know where the story's going. We know what our goal is, the character's goal. Act three can let's say that you're doing four acts, which I don't think I've ever seen four acts, but this is just for an example. I've seen three and five, but you could do four acts. It's always, I just haven't. I don't. I know there's like a name for a three-act structure and a five-act structure, but I can't think of the name for a four-act structure. I'm sure I know it's been done before, but it's a little bit more rare if I'm not mistaken. Um, but yeah, so Act four is like um, the final battle, and then Act three is the final battle, and then Act four is like the resolution. Kind of goes back to like high school literature when we learned about um, like the beginning, the introduction, and the rising action, the climax, the falling action, and the resolution. It's a very similar thing that you want to kind of just touch on, um, and then just kind of going over characters a bit. Maybe again character arcs. I think that's probably something good to show character development, because something they might not, if you don't include it, what they might ask is what is the development. Also, there's a lot of loud planes flying over my house right now, like jets and stuff. So I'm sorry if there's like extra noise or something. I don't know what they're doing out there. But but sorry, which question was I on? The jet really distracts me. Oh yeah, character arcs. So yeah, I think character arcs, like they might ask you if you don't include it in the pitch. They might ask you what where like what is the character development, like, so this is like the character at the beginning. What is going to be the thing that like makes them interesting? What is it, what are they gonna how are they gonna change over the course of the series, or how does this specific event affect the character? And you kind of have to know, even if you don't include it in the pitch, be ready to answer questions like that. um uh yeah. And again, you might not include everything in the pitch. Like you say, you have that answer. You know exactly, how to answer that question. You don't necessarily include it in the pitch, but you can answer that question. Just because you have knowledge of something or because you know something in the script doesn't mean you have to include it. I think, the more I'll say the more vague, you don't want it to be like super vague, but you want it to be, there's like this really like fine line, this like gray area really, where it's not too much, but it's not underdone as well. It's like right, it's just right. It's kind of like the Goldilocks and the Three Bears, where you have like this porridge is too hot, this porridge is too cold, this one's just right. Um, so you have to kind of make sure you have, don't have too much information, don't have, too the information's not too vague. It has to be just right, just in the middle, and still be ready to answer any extra questions you might have, um, regarding character arcs and descriptions, and maybe like they could ask you like, what is this character's favorite food? And you could just be like, strawberries. I don't know, just kind of throw it out there. Um, they can ask you really like in-depth questions, or they can ask you really silly, unexpected questions like what's this character's favorite food? Something maybe you haven't thought of, but you have to be ready to answer that question. Or maybe you have thought of it. And so you're like ready to answer that question if it's asked. Um, Again, I think just in a pitch, be prepared for anything. I can't like emphasize that enough. Anything can happen. It's probably not going to go the way you expect it, no matter how much you practice it. Um, so yeah, it's yeah. I hope that answered. I feel like I kind of got off track a little bit, but hopefully that answered. question.
Yeah, Lisa, thank you.
Hmm.
Another question. How do we get an appointment with animation studios? I'm assuming they're talking about like arranging an appointment for pitches specifically.
Um, Wait a minute. Um, See, that's kind of hard because I feel like from what I know, there isn't just like a way to just make an appointment. Like you can't just go onto a website and be like, "Oh, I'm going to pitch to Netflix." And you go onto Netflix and you like make an appointment or call Netflix and make an appointment. Especially now, like I feel like in the past it probably could have been easier to just like show up to a studio depending on the size of the studio. Like there's a there's an this doesn't have to do with writing and pitching. This is an acting thing, but it's something that I think about all the time in regards to how much things have changed. But so there's a voice actor and he's actually the I don't know if anybody like watches like anime here or anything, but he's actually the voice of Bakugo in My Hero Academia, and he's done a bunch of other stuff. And I remember like watching a panel once, and he was explaining how he got into the industry, and he literally just he like sent a message, something I didn't hear anything, and so he's like, you know what, I'm just gonna drive up to the studio and just and hand him my demo. Like he has like the CD in hand. And this is like probably like mid 2000s, late 2000s, something like that. I'm assuming. So it was like over 15 years ago. 15 probably well yeah about 15 or so between 15 20 years ago. Um and he just showed up at the studio and Christopher Sabat was walking out and I was like, I'm here to like, I wanted to drop off my demo, and Christopher Sabat was like, yeah, go ahead, and he walked in and he handed it to the front desk, and he got an email a little later, and Christopher Sabat was like, hey, sorry, I had to run earlier, but like, I listened to your thing, it was really good, and how about you come in for an audition? And that's how he got it. He literally just showed up to the studio and handed off his demo, and you can't do that now. That's not something so, like, that's yeah, so that's just really an example of, like, how different it is. Um, so yeah, it might have that might have worked years ago, just showing up to studios and being like, "Hey, can I make an appointment?" I'm not sure if that's actually how it worked, but, like, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, there's a chance that that could have happened. I don't think you can do that now, as far as I know. Um, to get a pitch with a studio, um, I if I'm not mistaken, representation, like writing representation is something you might wanna consider. I know that I definitely wanna get, an agent eventually to rep my scripts and stuff like that. They also know a lot about pitching and a lot about, like, how it works and stuff. So if you have an agent also, if you're looking for an agent and they are asking for money up front, don't take it. That is a scam. An agent never should cost money unless you get a job. They get a percentage of your earnings. So like for like an actor's agent, like they get like if an actor gets a job or like a writer gets a job, they might get like 5 or 10% of the writer's or actor's earnings for that job. So that's kind of how it works. You only pay them if you get a job from their help. Like if they help you get a job, if they like give you an audition and you go and you get it, they get a portion of that, just a small percentage. Um, so yeah, an agent should never cost money upfront, and you also need to be ready to like because when you send in like writing samples and stuff to agencies, you you need to be ready. You need to send it. I actually um so during the internship, we had like an industry panel type thing with somebody from, forgot the name of the agency, but it was like a writing agency. And they're this big agency. They work with like novelists and screenwriters as well. And she was working in the screenwriting department, screenwriting section. And we got to ask her questions and stuff like that. And like one of the I asked was, what is the biggest like thing you see when people are auditioning or maybe auditioning or applying and sending in scripts? Like what is like the most common mistake that you see? And she said it's like really simple, like spelling, grammar, stuff like that. Um, a lot of people don't want to share their scripts with anybody because they're like, oh, I don't want like to share this idea or anything like that. But honestly, share it with somebody you trust, share it with friends, share it with family. It's not going to hurt you, and you will be able to get somebody else's opinion. Um, be ready to get criticism, both good and bad. If you need to be able to learn, you need to be able to kind of like take that criticism and be like, okay, well, this one scene can maybe be fixed this, or this line was confusing to read. Because in my internship, when we got all these pitches and stuff like that, and some of the a lot of the scripts that I was reading, um, it was interesting to say the least. It was so many of them just were passes because I was like pass on this. It's also scary how much uh, influence interns have. If you say the interns for development interns, if you say pass on an idea, they will pass on an idea. Like they won't read it. So I'm like, okay. So I felt a lot of this pressure and stuff, but some of them I always felt bad when I said pass just because I'm a writer myself and but some of them really just needed to be rewritten or get a rewrite done or something like that. A lot of them were good, but there was a lot of grammar and spelling errors that made it hard to read. Um, there were a lot of some of them had a lot of like different time jumps that made it kind of confusing. And I think just getting others' opinions before you go off and send it to studios and to agencies is probably your best move. Um, and you want to make sure that what you're sending is your best work. And then once you get an agent, uh, get you to meet with other people and stuff like that. Another way of doing things is connections and networking. Um, uh, just going to lunch with people and being like, like if you're out, like make connections and then just like go get a coffee with somebody, go get lunch with somebody, and just talk about work, talk about art, talk about writing. Something might come up, you might people be like, oh, I have like this idea. I know sometimes interns and people, if you're low, if you're like a production coordinator level position or you're like or anywhere in the industry and people might be like, oh, you're a writer too, I'd love to hear your idea, I'd love to hear like what you have. Some people literally like I think the industry is so welcoming, especially in animation. There's so many people who are just going to be like, oh, you're a writer, that's awesome, I want to hear your work. Or you're an artist too, like, oh, that's so cool, I'd love to see your character designs. And they'll want to see your work. And sometimes there's a chance that you can that can help you. I know, like I don't remember how long ago it was, but it was like a few years back. There was a show that at Nickelodeon that was created by an intern, and the intern and just happened to mention that they were a writer, and one of the people that they were interning under was like, "Oh, I'd love to hear more." So she told her idea. The supervisor loved the idea and brought it up to other people, the higher ups and stuff like that, and everyone loved it. And eventually, they offered her the showrunner position for that show, which honestly, that's going to be really hard to do, just get showrunner right away. But but it's not unheard of. And I think everybody is there is no like surefire way to the get into the industry. I feel like there's so many different routes you could take. You can do, through an agency, through networking, through, you know, a friend of a friend of a friend. It's a big circle. It's a big. You'll notice like that. Like I know this person who knows this person who knows this person who knows this person, and like and I know this other person, and like we have like this, and it's a big circle. It all comes full circle in the end. And I think that's something that might surprise people is just how small and how full circle it is, and how, oh, like I know a friend of a friend of a friend who's looking for this position, and I know this other person who's offering this position, so I'm going to connect them, things like that. So there's a lot of different ways to do that. Um, yeah, I think probably your best move is get an entry level position at a studio. I know that's how a lot of people start. You're not just gonna be able to go to California and start pitching your series and just get a series. That's gonna be really, really hard to do. Um, Network, get to know people, build up your resume, build up your work. When you're ready, and you really feel like, I have really amazing work, and because you're going up against thousands and thousands of other people who are trying to get their stuff made. Um, so you want to, just because it's an Emmy-winning idea, like James said in the video, doesn't mean that they're going to pick it up. There's a lot of other stuff that goes on that determines whether or not they can make stuff. Just because if they don't pick up your series or your film, doesn't mean that it's not good. And yeah, so I hope that that kind of makes sense. I feel like, sorry, I got off topic, but yeah. So I think just going back to the original question, it's not so much as making an appointment as it is getting into the industry and meeting people, and then maybe possibly eventually getting an agent. And there's just like there's different ways and stuff like that. But again, I recommend networking and getting entry level positions, going out to California, meeting with people, getting a coffee, building relationships and that sort of thing. And then eventually there's always a chance. So another person I know who had who got a pitch with executives and stuff like that, and executive producers. Not necessarily a studio, but executive producers, which is also a great way to make it. Because if you get to meet somebody who makes things happen, who gets studio backing, because there's pitches with studios and there's pitches with like executive producers who get stuff made by studios. So uh, yeah, so like there are people who can help you get stuff made, even if it's not a studio that you're pitching to. Um, so um, this person submitted to a film festival, didn't get into a film festival. He didn't get into the film festival, but caught the attention of uh, the runners of the festival, and they were like, "Hey, this was really good. When are you making your next thing? We wanna back you for your next thing." And that's how they got pitches and stuff like that. And they have people like trying to help them get their thing made, which is really cool. But so that's another way to do it too. Just submit to festivals, even if you don't get into the festival. Um, it could just show off your work, what you can do, that sort of thing. Um, yeah, hopefully that makes sense.
No, that makes
I don't know.
a ton of sense. The whole story about the intern becoming a showrunner is really wild.
It
And
is, yeah, that's very rare, but it does happen.
and I will also say for sure, like if you have the means to submit your um your like animations to film festivals, absolutely do so. I know it can be kind of costly depending on the size of the festival and stuff. But that is something that a lot of people do. They're a huge networking opportunity. And so a lot of animators will submit their projects en masse to a bunch of film festivals, even if they can't attend them. So I will say, when when we went as a club, there was like a good bit of the people who submitted who were just like straight up were not there. but
Yeah.
but we I want to say like Sarah and I and a bunch of the people in the club who went, we still made a lot of connections and met a bunch of people. Um, so a bunch of creators and stuff, and it was really awesome. So regardless of whether you think your film will get selected for a film festival, um, still submit it if you have the money for it. Yeah.
hmm
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Also, again, I just want to reiterate, you don't even have to be selected for the festival to get the attention of
Mhm.
the festival people who are running it. There might be people who are running it who are executive producers who get stuff made, who work with studios, and might be like, "Oh, this didn't get accepted because like maybe it's like the reason the film didn't get admitted to the festival, like people were like this is the best film at the festival, but it can't be submitted because it was made with no budget. Like there was no budget. It was just completely I think like it ended up costing like less than $100 to make or something like that. And so it's a because there was no budget and it's like an indie, it didn't qualified. It needed to have a budget in order to qualify for this particular festival, but it was so well made that the people were like, I want to know what, like what your next thing is and like I want to know more about. And they like he even got this person even got invited to the festival. Um, Even though their film wasn't selected, they still were invited to the festival so they can network with people because they were like, we want to like help you, and that really helped them in their journey. So yeah, so again, you don't even have to have your film or short selected in order for it to be a good experience and to be beneficial to you. So just wanted to reiterate that. Don't feel disheartened if it's not selected.
Yeah. Um, Another question. This will probably honestly maybe be the last one because we are running uh about like an hour, 17 minutes. So, um, just for the sake of time, I think this will be the last one. Someone asked, um, how do you go about practicing your pitch decks?
So what I do is I just literally practice. Like I'm not gonna lie, I just like stood in front of my mirror in my bathroom and just practiced for like hours and hours and hours before. And the thing is that the date that we were supposed to pitch actually ended up getting delayed. If I'm not mistaken, I can't remember why. But so we got like had an extra like few days. So I was like, oh, so I just kept practicing, even though like I was already practiced like a whole bunch and I probably could have pitched really well at that moment. I was like, I'm still going to practice more and try to make it better. So even if you think you're ready, continue to practice. You can always improve. You can always get better. Um, and yeah, so um, so yeah, just pitch. I also pitch my to my family, just like see like what like if someone who's never heard the story before, has never does the pitch work? Are you intrigued? Do you want to know more? I pitched to my brother, who is also a writer, and he's has a few pitches that he's wrote, and he has a writing agent, and he knows people who have pitched for things. And I was like, well, what do you think? Like, is this good? And he gave me some feedback and stuff. So I think before you go into a pitch, find someone who you can practice with and pitch to, like a friend or a family member or something like that, who's willing to like sit there, listen, and be like, yeah, and then uh, give you uh, feedback about like how you can make it better and what they liked about it and what worked and what didn't. I think that's probably a really important thing to do. And but otherwise, yeah, just read it in the mirror, just practice what you're gonna say, prepare for any questions that might come up. Um, and yeah,
Cool. That one was a little short, so maybe this will be the last one.
I can do more if you want. There's another one.
So this person asks, um, this was a while ago, so they were asking, so do I need an agent first? And I believe your answer is yes, generally, if you're not already starting out in an entry level writing position. And then
Mhm.
the follow up to that is, if I found one, would they help me find? Oh, wait, no. I'm currently looking for an agent for my graphic novel. If I found one, would they help me find connections to studios too?
It depends on what type of agent you get. If you have a writing agent for for screenplays and stuff like that, yes, I would say. It's like you can get a writing agent for graphic novel, and they might, depending on the agent that you get, the writing agent, they might be able to connect you more with like publishers and like for novels and stuff like that. And then, but if you're more into like screenplays and you get like there's agents that on different sides of writing. And if you're trying to get a writing agent um uh, for like screenplays and stuff and original series, then you can they can probably if I'm not mistaken, yes, they can connect you with studios and stuff. And I want to go. I'm looking at the comments now. Yes. Yeah. So it yeah, agents can definitely help with that and get connections because they also get you pitches, they get you auditions, they get you, these things, so it is kind of important to get an agent eventually, like, you don't need one right away, don't rush to get an agent, but, like, that is probably one of the next steps that you're gonna take, um because you also don't want to rush into getting an agent if you're not ready. You want to make sure that like, I remember when I first started voice acting, I was like, yeah, I did this really, 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 really poorly made homemade demo. It was so bad, and I sent it out to an agency, and I never heard back from them. And I was like, why not? And I, because I was so like, I didn't know anything about the industry yet, and I was like, I'm ready. I'm going to be a voice actor, and it takes a lot more time and practice and work and dedication than just I did this, this demo and I'm going to send it out. It needs to be like your best work, and you have to really put in the work and put in the effort, practice, take workshops, do whatever you can to improve. And then once you're ready and once you have a really good demo, then start reaching out to agencies. And it's the same thing with writing. Practice any chance you get. I like to do writing prompts and just find like a random writing prompt online and then just try to write something small. Like one time I found a prompt and I just wrote like a 2-3 page short story. It's like less than 1,000 words. Sometimes giving yourself like a limit, like, oh, I'm gonna try to use this prompt and try to write a short story in under 1,000 words, or under 2,000 words or something like that. Um, that's always something that can really help as well. And then once you get your writing really like once it's ready and once it's down, and you think you have it down, like it's second nature, and it's your best work, that's when you want to start reaching out, when you really 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 feel ready. Because I actually had a voice actor tell me once, like, you have to be like, to when you are ready, you'll know when you're ready, because if you were to go into a studio and they were to say like, "Hey, we need you to do this, 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 and this. Can you get in the booth and do that?" And if you can confidently say yes, even if you aren't necessarily that confident, you have to confidently say, "Yes, I can do that," and go in and do it. If you aren't ready for that, if you hesitate, if you go, I don't know, I can try, probably, maybe, I don't know, we'll see. And you go and you still do it, um, you're not ready. You're not ready if you go, maybe, I think I can. You want to be, you want to go, yes, I can do that. That's when you know you're ready. And that's when you're going to start trying to get an agent and audition and stuff like that. But until then, try to do workshops and try to practice and just get ready. Same thing with writing. If they were to be like, "Hey, can you write on this show, or can you write this thing, or can you like write a pitch for a show about blah 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 blah?" You have to be like, "Yeah, I can do that." You have to be like really confident in your ability to write before you apply to an agency. Um, so, yeah, so improve, try to, you know, practice your writing, try to improve, try to you can always improve no matter how you could be the world, you can still improve, take workshops, and, yeah, I hope that kinda that helps with it. I hope to have more pitches, more, like, events and workshops surrounding, writing, original series development, original films, outlines, writing, agencies. I'm actually connected with that, person we talked to over the during my, yeah, 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 of course, so happy to answer questions your questions. Um, but yeah, so I'm actually connected on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's another option. Get on LinkedIn, start connecting with people. It's amazing. Um, there's like a bunch of people that I'm connected to and I talk to, and I'd love to like, meet with and just like maybe go get coffee and like talk about animation and talk about writing and talk about work and that sort of thing and creative projects once I get out to California, hopefully in the next few years or so. Um, so start connecting now. So when you get out to California, you can just be like, "Hey, I'm in California and I'd love to meet up," and you can like talk about things. That can be really, really helpful. Um, or if you're going to Lightbox Expo and you know that there's going to be people there that you are connected with on LinkedIn, be like, "Hey, I'm at Expo. I'd love to meet up with you and love to say hi and meet you in person," or something like that. Um, yeah, so that's always really good as well for networking. But yeah, so um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Just to interject about networking and stuff, our very last workshop is going to be hosted by Sarah and Winnie. Sarah can go in and like talk about all the ins and outs of how she networks with people on LinkedIn. She's literally a pro at it. Um, so definitely look forward to that. And
yeah,
Winnie will also be speaking on her experience at Lightbox because she did go last year. I'm sure she could like go over like the whole logistics of like the types of things she did there, what it costs to go there, um, like opportunities for like when she actually got to talk to people because from what I heard from her it was a little bit overwhelming. Um, and like all the artists she was able to meet. So that's something that if you wanted to learn more about Lightbox specifically, you could ask her. And if you're thinking about, you're sort of like anxious about reaching out to people on LinkedIn, definitely ask Sarah. Like she knows what she's doing, guys.
mm,
So that will be the last workshop. Um, I believe the next one after this will be storyboarding tips. Oh yeah, I will mention also that Winnie, our treasurer, is um, a storyboarder. So like the things that she was seeking out at Lightbox Expo, and like the types of artists and people she was talking to, or like panels or whatever, um, they're probably more oriented towards that part of the pipeline. But like you can still ask her a bunch of questions. Just be aware that like that's sort of what she was seeking out. Uh so yeah, the next one is storyboarding, and then after that, I believe is internships, and then after that, it is networking. But yeah, thank you guys for
yeah,
coming. Um,
yeah. Please join the networking one. I cannot recommend like LinkedIn and networking enough. It is the best thing that you can do for your career, no matter where you want to go, whether it's writing or animating or acting or creating your original show. Like it's amazing. It really is. And LinkedIn has been my best friend in all of that. So